Hello and welcome back to Live from Paris here on France 24. William Edwards is here now from our business desk. Good morning, William.
Hello, Lorna.
Right, so another week drawing to a close without a deal on that new bailout for Greece. But hopefully we might be seeing something by Monday.
Yes, there are widespread hopes now that a deal will be done on that bailout on Monday. Now, I'm not making any promises, of course, because we have heard this sort of thing before. But this is for the second bailout of Greece. Of course, 130 billion euros said to be released by the EU and the IMF. Greek politicians have been struggling to agree on the terms set by the EU, which include a number of harsh cuts, but also much closer supervision of the Greek budget. Let's take a look at some of the details that are expected to be involved in this deal on Monday.
A rare glimpse of happy times. A buzzing Athens restaurant, Greek families and friends celebrating the Ash Thursday holiday.
Everyone is quite looking forward for this day and wants to spend some time with his friends and have a laugh and everything. Just forget about everything else, especially these days.
These days that have seen Greeks squeezed by tough austerity measures, with more still to come. The Greek government's agreed to implement new measures in order to get a second bailout package. European and IMF leaders want to get the €130 billion deal finalised on Monday. It's expected they'll include controls to make sure they can regulate how Greece is spending its financial aid. So what are these controls? Full-time financial monitors will be in Athens to keep tabs on what the government's spending. Greece will have to maintain a third-party bank account with enough money in it to pay its investors. And before aid is released, Greece has to prove it's met a list of 24 prior actions, like showing how they will slash government spending. Tough terms, but ones that Greece is likely to agree to. The country will go bankrupt without financial aid, but the bailout lenders want to protect investors and make sure these billions are properly spent. They'll help Greece avoid default, but only with strings attached.
And of course, much of the political direction for solving the crisis in Greece is coming from Germany, the Eurozone's strongest economy. But it does seem that patience with Greece is wearing thin there, particularly in the business community. Today, an interview with the head of Bosch is published in which he has quite incendiary comments about Greece. We spoke earlier to our correspondent in Berlin, Jessica Soltz. She told us exactly what he had to say.
Franz Fehrenbach, the head of Bosch's interview today, might spark up more problems. He says that Greece should be kicked out of the Eurozone and the European Union, calling it an unbearable burden on the single currency. He said that if Greece doesn't return to the drachma itself, then changes should be made to the EU treaties to be able to expel it. And he had many harsh words about the country, where there are phantom pensioners, he called them, and where wealthy people don't pay enough tax. But although these words are particularly strong, he does actually join a chorus of voices in Germany, especially in the business world, as you said, who actually feel the same way. Manager magazine, the magazine publishing this interview today, interviewed 300 top managers in Germany and found that 57% feel the same, that Greece should leave the euro, many saying that it would be the best thing for the country. The chairman of Commerzbank saying that Greece should release itself from the shackles of the euro. But as Fehrenbach thinks that kicking Greece out of the euro would be an incentive to make other countries get their economies in order, many other business leaders here feel that Germany would be cutting off its nose to spite its face if it allowed countries within the Eurozone to fail and to drop, such as Greece, because of course we know Germany's benefited the best from the single currency because it's been able to export to its European Union neighbours at a lower rate.
Jessica Soltz now. Well, William, let's have a look at what the European markets are doing today.
Oh, well, despite everything going on in Greece, they actually have been quite positive at the opening. This is off the back of figures from Wall Street. Wall Street had its highest close since 2008, before the financial crisis yesterday. That was Thursday, and that optimism has carried through the Asian markets and into the European markets opening up at the moment. So a positive opening for the European markets. There we go.
All in the green. Great. Well, as we've been saying in the news bulletins, Libya is marking the one-year anniversary of its uprising against Colonel Gaddafi. The economy is one of many areas needing the attention of the new government, and while oil production is expected to reach pre-war levels by June, in the meantime, there are considerable problems with the country's banks' liquidity.
Every day, crowds of people wait for this bank in Tripoli to open. They're migrant workers who want to send money home to their families. During the 8 months of conflict that led to the downfall of Gaddafi's regime, Libyans would queue here too. They wanted to get their money out. Now, Libyan banks are struggling for liquidity.
The problem today is that the banks only have a small amount of cash, maybe $40,000 or $50,000 a day. They're shutting at noon because they don't have enough money. Sometimes they only have 30 or 40,000 when it's finished. That's it.
The revolution started a year ago, and according to the IMF, the financial situation in Libya is still precarious. It's a problem that the National Transitional Council are trying to resolve.
A lot of Libyan money is still outside the banks. To encourage people to deposit their cash, the central bank is exchanging Libyan dinars for dollars and making it easier to make international transfers. There's been a big improvement. At one point, we had less than 500 million Libyan dinars in the banks. Now we have 1.5 billion.
Measures they hope will get cash back into banks. But there's still the problem of growth. During the conflict, Libya's GDP fell by 40%, mainly due to the halt in oil production, which makes up nearly all of Libya's export earnings. The government's priorities then, re-establishing security in order to attract investment and keep oil pumping.
And finally, William, we're going to go to the UK because there have been new files released there that show how effective German economic efforts were during World War II.
Yeah, this is quite an interesting one from the archives. Just been released today after years in, these were MI5 secret intelligence files, so hence they've been in secret for so long. But it shows sound economic principles at work. The Germans printed millions of pounds, forged pound notes, basically, during the war, and these found their way into circulation in both neutral countries and eventually, by the end of the war, in Britain and the British Empire itself. And in this report that was released today, one MI5 officer said the German object of destroying confidence abroad in Bank of England notes has been achieved, which is quite a statement to make. They printed equivalent to around 10% of all pound notes in circulation, which is an enormous amount, and it resulted in a huge recall in 1943 of all notes with a value of £10 or more, which in those days was quite a lot of money.
Indeed, not quite quantitative easing, but certainly printing money for a different reason. Thank you very much indeed, William, for looking at all today's top business stories. And that's just about all from us for the moment. Thanks for joining us, and do stay tuned. There's more news coming up with Claire Pride after the weather.